Let's go record. Hummy, you will yell at me if I don't record this, so let's roll. All right, Josie, can you see my screen?
I can see your screen,
All
sir.
right, guys. Sorry for the delay, but we are back 6 minutes late. Let's get started so we can maximize our time here tonight. I'm really excited to introduce tonight's guest lecturer, on which we're going to talk about CBD and how that will lead to more happy patients that walk in and out of your office, and how that will create long-term patients within your office from a value perspective, from an overall health perspective, and also for you from a practice revenue perspective as well. So just to kind of recap, all this stuff started. The CE Zoom webinar started kind of when COVID, the pandemic hit, and we were all at home doing not what we love to do, sitting around. So I figured that was a great time to kind of get some great lecturers in here and start to get some education out there. And the whole point of this whole entire 10-part lecture series was to really create more whole health-centered providers that are out there in the world treating our patients. Because the more we know, the more whole health-centered we are, the better off we are, and the more kind of value we can offer our patients. So hopefully everybody was able to catch at least a couple of those lectures. I thought they went really, really well. For any of you who did not get a chance to catch any of those lectures, of course, you can view most all of them on either our Facebook page or our YouTube page. So here's some of the handles that we have going on: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, our website, which is a wealth of information on there. And of course, any of you can always email me anytime you need, Dr. Robinson at painandsleepcenter.com. So without further ado, let's kind of get into tonight's lecture. So I'll introduce the speaker real quick. So the speaker, his name is Josey, and I had the privilege to meet him about a year ago or so. And he actually is a business partner. A business partner of mine grew up with him right outside of Philadelphia in Conshohocken. And so he kind of introduced me to Josey and said he was doing some amazing things in the CBD world. Josey has kind of been an entrepreneur since the time he left high school. He has always been involved with business development and providing services to people who are looking for value. And so he's been very successful with a number of his endeavors, but I think the last thing that he has been completely devoted to is the CBD market, and to providing products to patients, consumers, doctors, health centers around the country. And I think he's been pretty successful with that. So I can tell you, I have a lot of kind of anecdotal research that I've been doing in my clinic, my pain and sleep therapy clinic, and how important that has been for me, and the value that it has given my patients. So I'll talk a little bit about that at the end, but I'm going to kind of get into let him talk here for a second. But I just wanted to kind of call this out. I know you guys probably saw my email that went out this morning, but it was non-coincidental, I think, in my opinion, that this came out. I got an email today that said, it was the ADA morning huddle, the American Dental Association morning huddle. And it says, as dentists reopen, many face increased cost and decreased patient volume. And I think that's absolutely correct. And like I've been preaching since day one on this webinar, is the landscape has changed. Us as dentists, we have to kind of reinvent ourselves, and we have to kind of know how to operate in a post-COVID world where our patients are looking more to us for whole health centered services, and for, more than just scraping their teeth and fixing their cavities inside, their teeth. They want us to be kind of the authoritarians on kind of what they should do to increase their immunity, increase their health. And so more and more as our patients come in, I've seen it in my practices. I mean, people are asking, what can I do better in order to make myself healthier? What can I do better to eliminate some of the stress? What can I do better to make myself more immune to viruses that are out there? Because, maybe this is the first of many of these things that are coming down the line. Hopefully not, knock on wood, but what if it is? So I think patients are more in tune with their health and their overall health. So with that, we figured we'd bring Josey on and, let him talk to us about CBD and how we can kind of incorporate that into our practices. And even if we don't incorporate it into our practices, maybe at least after tonight, we'll at least have a better understanding of what CBD is. because a lot of our patients are using it. A lot of our staff members are using it. A lot of people in the world are now turning to this. And so I'm not going to steal all Josey's thunder here, because I want him to kind of give you the full detailed view on this stuff. So I'll be back kind of after he lectures, and I'll kind of go on into kind of how I've incorporated into my practice. So Josey, if you don't mind, we're gonna jump over to you, and you're gonna take it from here, man.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, let me just share my screen here quick. Make sure, disabled attendee screen sharing.
Okay, let me pull you up. So
Okay.
you are now going to be the host.
All right. There we go. All right. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yeah, man. Looks great.
All right, cool. Let's do it. Okay, well, first of all, thank you, Dr. Robinson, for putting this together, and thank you to all the attendees for giving me a little bit of your evening tonight. Basically, to get started here, just think of this as a simple introduction to the world of CBD. We're just going to go through some very high-level core concepts. What is CBD, how it affects your brain and body, top benefits, some common misconceptions as it pertains to hemp versus marijuana, CBD versus the alternatives on the market, how your patients are probably already using it, consumption methods, bioavailability, the trends, and then we'll bring it all home with CBD and your practice. So let's get into it. What is CBD? I couldn't put this any more simply. It's really just a compound called cannabidiol, and it's found in both the cannabis and the hemp plant. There are some crucial differences between cannabis and hemp that we will talk about a little bit later. But CBD stands out because in its early stages, it displays a broad range of potential medical applications. Anxiety, inflammation, pain, seizures, and insomnia and sleep. But the great thing about it is that it is non-intoxicating. So it does not get you high, as a very common misconception. We will move on now to how it affects your brain and your body. So look, I know most of the people on this presentation right now probably have a little bit more education than I do. So you're going to have to bear with me as I go through this wordy slide. But this is some of the crucial aspects of CBD. So the way that CBD interacts with your body is basically we all have a set of receptors. Your pets have them, your dogs, your cats. All of us have an endocannabinoid system, which is a complex signaling system that ensures our bodies maintain homeostasis. Again, bear with me. I'm sure most of you know what homeostasis is. For those that may not, basically, it's all about balance. Your body doesn't want to be too hot or too cold, blood sugar levels too high or too low, and we want conditions to be just right to maintain optimum performance. So CBD promotes that. But what's particularly interesting about CBD is that it doesn't just interact with your endocannabinoid system, it also interacts with opioid, dopamine, and serotonin receptors. Because it has this ability, it makes it a very, very interesting compound, and there's tons of studies being done on it, and there's plenty of very good ones that have already been done. So, moving on here, I'm going to take a little break from the science part of it and just give you a little anecdotal personal story. I'm in recovery. I've been sober for almost 10 years now. And my sobriety is actually what led me to CBD. So basically, as a sober person, I struggled with insomnia and I struggled with some social anxiety, and I didn't want to be prescribed to Xanax, and I didn't want to be prescribed to Ambien because I felt that they were too heavy for me, and they run a high risk of abuse. And whenever I go to the doctor or the dentist, I always have to tell them, look, I'm in recovery. You can't give me anything that could be used as a narcotic. And that's how I found CBD. And I guess the amazing part about it was that I found that it worked. And so I started to get really, really into it. And I was like, oh, is this just a placebo? Am I tricking myself? And I started to do a deep dive. And that's how I found myself really wanting to get involved into this industry because of what it meant for my life and how I knew it could impact other people's lives. So now back to the science side of it. The four main things that CBD has been studied for are anxiety, pain, epilepsy, and insomnia. As far as epilepsy goes, there's already an FDA approved drug for specific types of epilepsy that has proven to be very effective. And as far as the people watching this, I'm sure that you deal with a lot of anxious patients that are a bit concerned about feeling pain. And so it might just be a great alternative for your patients as well. Now we're going to go on and we're going to touch upon hemp and marijuana. Key distinctions, and it is critically important that I show you them. They're not wildly different. They come from the same family of plant, but people get confused and they think that marijuana is hemp and so on and so forth, and they're different. The key difference is that hemp, which is where we at Hugs Wellness, my company, derive our CBD from, is that it contains 0.3% or less of THC. As I'm sure you all know, THC is the one that gives you a buzz, and marijuana has 15 to 20%, sometimes even more with the stuff that they're growing these days. It's pretty crazy. And effectively, when the federal government legalized hemp and legalized CBD, one of the conditions was that it has to contain 0.3% or less of THC. And that's how we find ourselves with this super fast growing industry called the CBD industry. So back to your patients and what the key differences are between CBD and the alternatives out there on the market, especially as it pertains to pain management. Millions of people all across the country, my grandmother included, have seemingly endless amounts of pills in their drawers. But people are seeking safer solutions to their ailments, and cannabinoids can provide the relief without the nasty side effects. As you can see in my little chart here, you effectively have CBD, NSAIDs, and prescription opiates. So far, they all seem to be very good at relieving pain, but over the long term, there's serious consequences to NSAIDs and prescription opiates that, quite frankly, CBD and hemp just do not have. CBD and hemp don't kill anybody. They don't addict anybody. And so we like to say internally at my company, Hugs, plants over pills when necessary. So moving on, CBD in the real world. we're going to talk about in this little section the types of CBD you'll find, the trends, and the methods that people use to take CBD. So there's three main types of CBD on the market. There is CBD isolate, which just means CBD all by itself, no other cannabinoids are present. You have what's called broad spectrum CBD. That typically is a great way to indicate that there is no THC present, but there are some other minor cannabinoids and plenty of CBD. And then there's my personal favorite, full spectrum CBD. So the term full spectrum means that there's a wide range of cannabinoids present, including 0.3% or less of THC. Most CBD experts, myself included, believe that full spectrum products offer the most medicinal benefits because the compounds work synergistically together. Typically, you'll see this referred to as the entourage effect. And most people, including users of CBD, seem to report that full spectrum products are the most effective. Buzzword time. I'm sure you have all seen the word or the term microdosing around. Typically in headlines right now, you're seeing it used a lot for mushrooms and other psychedelics, which are being used in a microdose to help treat psychiatric disorders and all variety of things like that. That's not obviously what we're talking about today. Microdosing is just basically taking a little bit of THC so that you get the health benefits of it while avoiding the psychoactive effects that can interfere with the demands of your daily life. So the consumption methods that people use are topicals, which are typically used for localized relief. So if your elbow's sore or your ankle's sore, you'll take a topical cream or a balm and you'll rub it on the area that it is bothering you, and you will get relief from that. Edibles are very, very common. You see them usually as gummies, but I mean, not that this would apply to you guys. A lot of people sell like sugar-coated lollipops with CBD in it. Not really what we try to do, but it is a very, very popular method of consuming CBD. You also have sublinguals, also known as tinctures. And these are a very effective way of taking CBD. You drop them under your tongue, it absorbs directly into your bloodstream. And then you hold it usually for 10-15 seconds and then you swallow. And then you have vapes or joints. They have CBD joints now. We don't recommend them because smoking or vaping anything is not going to be the healthiest way to consume something. So that's not what we make at my company, but they are out there. So this is just a little bit more of a deep dive into bioavailability. So basically, the absorption rate for the different methods. Topicals, like I mentioned earlier, it's for localized relief. Put it on your boo-boo. It fixes you right up sometimes. Edibles are very, very popular, as I mentioned. The problem with them is that your stomach acids eat them up, and so you don't actually absorb as much as of the CBD as you would like. My preferred method is through a tincture, taken sublingually. You have a much higher absorption rate, excuse me, and on top of that, it's the best alternative compared to something like vaping, where you'll get a lot more, you'll absorb a lot more, but you don't really want to be inhaling CBD vapors, in my personal opinion. So now we get to talk about the trends, consumption methods, and purchasing channels. This is probably the most interesting slide, in my opinion. So what the data shows us about why people use CBD is very in line with the benefits of CBD. The top reasons are relaxation, stress and anxiety relief, to improve sleep, to relieve muscle pain, chronic pain, and joint pain. And if you look in the upper right corner, you will see that the most common method or form is edibles, CBD infused food or drinks, followed by sublingual drops or sprays, then vaping devices, and topical rubs. Pills and capsules fall under the edible category. They're out there, again, not the most effective way to consume. Then you take a look at the bottom right corner here, and you can see where people are buying it. And I find this particularly interesting because you can get CBD at a dispensary. My company, we sell to online retailers, we sell to retail stores. But what's missing here is really trust and authority. And I think that's where providers come in. So in summary, you have millions of people willing to try CBD or already have. This industry is growing like wildfire. And, you know, for my company, we sell to grocery stores, we sell to big box retailers, but providers truly give us an opportunity to build trust, you know, through one-on-one conversations, through the environment of being in a dentist's office or a doctor's office or any of the above. And that's a lacking thing. When you go to a grocery store and you ask the employee there, hey, what CBD is the best? They don't know. They're not trained. They just have it on their shelves because it's a trendy item and it sells because there's a lot of consumer demand. But I think the biggest opportunity for 2020 is providers. And it seems that AGD might agree with me. CBD was on the cover of the magazine in February, and there's a little quote I pulled from it that just says, the treatment of chronic pain has relied heavily on opioids despite their potential for addiction and overdose, and the fact that they just don't often work well when used on a long-term basis. There is an urgent need for more effective and safer options. And so I believe that CBD provides an effective and safer option. So we're going to bring it all home now to CBD and your practice, how to educate your patients, improve their well-being, and add to your bottom line. So first thing is, there's a ton of CBD brands out on the market. It's very difficult to know which one is good and which one is not. You don't want to go and buy gas station CBD. I highly recommend you avoid that at all costs. And here's why. The most important part of building a quality CBD brand is third-party lab testing your products. The reason why we do that is because we want to show you that we are giving you a clean product. We are giving you a product that has an accurate potency, and just so that you know exactly what you're getting. It's all about transparency. So one thing for people that are new to CBD or don't know much about it, that you are going to run into is how to actually read a lab test. And just for your own personal information, lab tests are also referred to as COAs, which stands for Certificate of Analysis. I'm going to take you guys through a little lab test from one of our products and give you the know-how that you will need. So the first aspect of a lab test or a COA is the cannabinoid profile and potency testing. So each cannabinoid is listed as a line item, so you can see what is present. Right off the top, second line is one of the important ones, delta 9 THC. And if you look at the result percentage, you can see that it is below the legal limit of, it's at, ours rests at 0.1%. The legal limit again is 0.3%. If you go down a little further, you'll see CBD, which is what we're talking about today. And I focus on those two and not some of the other ones below, because those two, THC and CBD, are the most prevalent compounds found in the plant, and they're the ones with the most studies behind them. So you can see the result percentages, you can see the milligrams. So it's all totaled down here at the bottom. You'll see 36.8. So what the hell does that mean? Okay, so 36.8 is the amount per serving, basically. So when you look at a bottle of CBD, it'll probably say 1,000 milligram bottle. And what that means is that there's about 30 servings in it, with 33-ish milligrams per serving. So as you can see here, you'd take that total cannabinoids number and you multiply it by the servings in the bottle. Typically in a 1 ounce tincture bottle, you'll have 30 servings and you get 1,100 total cannabinoids. I really hope that that wasn't too much math. And if anybody has questions about it after, there is a Q&A, so feel free to ask me. We're going to move on to the next section of testing. So heavy metals, mycotoxins, pesticides, and residual solvents. Effectively, the reason why CBD tests for these things and literally none of the other products at your local Whole Foods do, and why we're held to such a high standard, is because hemp tends to, as a plant, suck up every single little thing that's in the soil. It's actually very good for cleaning out soil in a sustainable way. But unfortunately, sometimes it can also suck up some bad things. So you always want to make sure that none of those things are present in your CBD. Typically, the third-party lab just issues a simple pass-fail or none determined. As you can see here, a lot of none detected and none determined. The final little bit of a lab test that you will most likely encounter are terpenes. Terpenes are fun. They are just basically what gives plants their flavor and aroma. You'll find terpenes in everything from citrus fruits to lavender to flowers to cannabis and hemp. And effectively, terpenes have been studied. We know that a lot of people use lavender to help them fall asleep at night. We actually have a product that includes lavender extract as well as lemon balm. Basically, it's our nightcap tincture that we put together as a holistic way to help people fall asleep at night. And so far, the reviews are incredibly positive, and I use it every night myself. So we're going to wrap up here, getting towards the end. I hope I haven't lost anybody. If you decide that you want to carry CBD products at your practice, there's a good chance that it'll be a largely staff-driven process. But as Dr. Robinson can attest, CBD also just kind of sells itself. If you carry our products, we do a complimentary training session with you, with your employees, whatever you need on your schedule. We'll work around it and we'll make sure that everybody that you feel needs to know about CBD at your practice knows everything they need to know so that they can communicate to your patients. Legal compliance with CBD. Another thing that we kind of handle so that you don't have to concern yourself with it. Most of it has to do with labeling guidelines and all that jazz. It's very boring. And that's why we overpay for lawyers so that you don't have to, and so that all of our products are compliant in every state. And I'm going to close you off with this. Dr. Robinson had asked me to put together a special package for the attendees. This is exclusive to you guys. If you call my office tomorrow and you get a sales rep on the phone and you ask them about starter packs for practitioners, they're not going to know what you're talking about. Basically, it's just a simple 3-package deal. You can do bronze, silver, or gold, and they all have different values and different costs. If you do end up wanting to order some, you can just email me at the address found right here. And please just make a note that this is from Dr. Robinson's presentation. And now I think I've covered everything. I'm sure some people have some questions, so we're going to go to the Q&A, and I'll stop sharing my screen. Do I need to make you the host again?
Yeah, could you?
If I can figure out how to do that.
So just like hover over me, go to the 3 dots that you see, and then go make host.
Okay. I don't see the 3 dots. Oh.
You see it?
No, it's not bringing that up.
Hover your mouse like over my video. Can you see me?
Yeah, I can see you.
Okay. Hover your mouse over it, then there should be 3 dots that pop up, and with the word mute.
Nothing. Hold on. Sorry about that.
No worries.
Let's see. I got nothing. I'm not seeing any of that.
Okay, let me
It
see.
says actually that you're still the host. That's strange. Oh. Yeah.
All right, no worries. I have a couple of slides to share because I wanted to kind of go over some of my personal experience with it. So if you can figure that out, try to, because I can't share my screen right now.
Oh, there we go. Got it.
Got it?
Yeah. It says you're the host now. Sorry about that.
Sweet, no worries. All right, let me stop that share for just a second. So let's take a couple questions. I mean, there's some questions that are kind of pouring in here. There's some questions it seems like that I think you can answer, and then maybe a couple that I can. A couple of questions came in on dosage recommendation. So a couple of the dentists are asking, how much should a patient take?
That's a great question. So everybody's different. Everybody's body reacts differently to CBD. And that is one of the things that's still being studied as like a optimal dose. So right now, what we know and what we tell people is to start out with a low dose product, like a 500 milligram product. We offer those. And to start out with just a full dropper 1 milliliter. All the droppers are graduated, so you know exactly how much you're giving yourself. And to just take it consistently over the course of a week or two, it needs time to build up in your system and see how you feel. It's a very, very individual experience, so to speak.
Yeah, I would agree. I've had, I'll go into a couple of my kind of experiences with my patients so far, but let's get through these questions first. So actually, we just got another question that came in. So as an independent practitioner, this person is an oral facial myofunctional therapist. We have a lot of those that kind of follow us. Josey, you probably have no idea what that
That's
is.
a mouthful.
Yeah, so it's like a physical therapist for the mouth.
Okay.
Um, they do wonders when it comes to sleep, speech, growth of the jaws, functioning, that type of thing. So, as an independent practitioner, an oral facial myofunctional therapist, can she sell and dispense this at her private office? She doesn't have a dental license.
Yeah, there's no licenses required to sell CBD.
Okay.
Yeah, she's good to go. I mean, it's everywhere. So
Okay. Awesome. So the next question that came up is probably one that a lot of people are wondering. Um, can someone fail a drug test?
So, chances are slim because you are taking such a small amount of THC. However, we always encourage people to, if they're incredibly concerned about getting drug tested, to look into the broad spectrum products, and also, just to, first of all, let me just backtrack a little bit. Wherever ever you buy your CBD, whether it's from me or from somebody else, that's why lab tests are important, because people need to at least know that there's THC present, right? You don't want somebody to take it and not know. Anyway, so yes, there is a small chance you could fail a drug test, but you're taking such a small amount that it's not a huge concern. And we have never had anybody come back to us and say, oh, I failed a drug test, but we also make it very apparent and transparent what's in it. So
Yeah, gotcha. No, that's great. Great answer. Yeah. And personally, I've never had anybody that's come back to me since I've been selling it, say that they've failed a drug test or have had any issues with that. So I think it's probably a non-issue. Okay. So are there any downsides to offering CBD?
I don't think so.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Uh,
um,
I don't think so either. Do you have anything more about that?
I mean, I talk to people, I mean, for the first year, I mean, I do all the customer service for our company.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had a single person complain of a side effect. We have not had a single return yet. And, mostly it's just, there's nothing, regardless of my opinion and my anecdotal experiences, what we have available to us right now in terms of science does not show any negative side effects for CBD. And I know that sounds like a crazy claim, but it's just, that's what we have. Anecdotal experience and some early science that shows there's not really many downsides.
Yeah, I agree. That's what I've seen as well in my clinic. So how about this? Is CBD legal in every state?
Yes. So CBD is federally legal, and then different states have their own labeling requirements and guidelines, and that's kind of what I mentioned a little bit earlier. The most important thing is that it is federally legal. So the big dogs say it's okay. States are a little bit slower in adjusting to it. So right now, only a handful of states even have specific guidelines that are different, and they're all to do so far with labeling.
Gotcha.
So and we handle that.
So next question. This person doesn't live in the United States. Can they still offer CBD? I think they can offer CBD, right?
Yeah, they can. So I believe in the UK, we don't do any business over there yet. We're keeping our focus right now from a strategic standpoint on the US.
Mhm.
But I do know that they have some different regulations. Like in the UK, I believe you can only have like 0.2% THC, whereas here it's 0.3%. So
Yeah.
I'm not well versed in international because we're just not there yet.
Gotcha. Um, okay, and then another question: what is the shelf life of your products?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, Average
Yeah,
18
I'm
months.
kind of curious myself because I have a ton of them in stock, even though they fly off the shelf.
Yeah, you're not going to have to worry about it because you'll sell out of them before that time ever comes, Ryan. But
Sure.
18 months for 98% of the products. A little bit longer for bath bombs and some of the topicals, but yeah.
Mhm. Okay, cool. Um, all right, so there's a couple questions here for me. I think specifically it says, how did the implementation process go? What are some of the struggles that I've had? So let me just turn it over. I'm going to share my screen for just a second. So I want to show what my wife was able to do in my practice. Josie, can you see my screen?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, for me personally, as many of you know, I run a pain and sleep clinic. So I treat patients who have pain and I treat patients who have problems sleeping. So for me, this was just a matter of time. And, you know, us being so holistically focused, us being so anti pills, we really were looking for alternatives to, the typical pharmaceutical solutions that are out there. And so a lot of my colleagues around in the airway world, around the whole entire country, I mean, we were talking for a long time and we're all kind of thinking like, what else can we incorporate into our practices? We do the myofunctional therapy, we make oral appliances, we are treating with injections. I mean, I even have Botox in my, clinic. But we were looking for additional ways to give our patients kind of a more of a whole health experience and try and get them away from some of the pills. A lot of the patients that see me are on a whole host of medications that, like you mentioned earlier, Josie, are just kind of they're devastating to their overall health, and they're more counterproductive in my opinion. So I loved your slide on plants over pills. Like we promote that like to the high heavens in my practice. Like every single day we promote a plant-based diet, and we also promote plants over pills. So it just made a lot of sense. So my colleagues and I were looking all around the country, and we're starting to see this CBD stuff more and more. This was a couple of years ago. And so like you had said, Josie, I think there was a lot of kind of gas station products that are out there. So for us as doctors, it's very important for us to be able to offer products that are safe and that come with research. So we started looking. I reached out to a couple of my colleagues, a couple of my peers, and really that's how I met Josie. I got turned on to Josie a couple years ago. We started chatting. I vetted the process. I actually Josie flew me down to Austin. I went down to Austin. I took a peek at at his operation. I looked at everything. I wanted to be very comfortable with something that I would offer in my practice. Obviously, when you make a decision to offer a product in your practice, you're standing behind it and you're saying that this is something that you endorse. So for me, I had to do a lot of research on this, and I got so comfortable with this stuff so quickly because, like probably most of you, or maybe not, I had no idea what CBD is. I had no idea what it did. So, long story short, 2 years later, here's a little display in my office. You can see I got bath bombs, I have tinctures, I have oil rubs. I mean, you guys know I treat a lot of headaches. I treat a lot of TMD, craniofacial pain. So we use the rubs, extra orally. We use the tinctures sublingually to get patients to fall asleep better. A lot of my patients were coming in on melatonin. A lot of my patients were coming in, like you said, Josey, on Ambien. I mean, a lot of like even a lot of opioids to try and get to sleep. And I mean, it was just constant balancing act of these pharmaceutical chemicals that are, trying to all compete for the same receptors in the brain. And what I found is that CBD is actually an alternative that really hits on a ton of the receptors that, like, if a drug only hits on one or two of them, I find that CBD hits on way more of the receptors that give the patients the outcome that they're looking for. So for instance, today we had 15 patients walk in the door. 5 of them bought products. It was 8 products sold. We made $500 today on CBD. So $500 today, that pays for my staff members to come into work today. $500 pays a significant part of, my electric bill. It pays a significant part of my rent. And so as I was describing to you guys earlier, as we transition into this post-COVID world as in dentistry, we're going to have less patient volume and we're going to have more increased costs with PPE and things like that. So, to have a product like this that your patients are they're going to be looking for anyway. I mean, they're going to get it wherever, if they get it from you or they get it from somebody else, they're going to want to buy it. So if you offer it here, why not make a few dollars in the process, especially by standing behind a company like yours, Josey, that I've, adopted into my practice. So, I can truly say that my wife takes it now. My mother-in-law takes it now. My mother-in-law was taking tons of melatonin to try and get to sleep at nighttime. And now she's taken the nighttime tincture. I take the nighttime tincture. I mean, the one hurdle of this is once you educate the staff on the benefits of this, you're going to have a problem not selling all of your stuff to your staff. And that's been the problem. I had like 3 staff members yesterday. It was like, hey, I want 2 more of the nightcaps. I want 1 for the beach house and 1 for home. So we're ended up, giving this out to a lot of our staff members. Of course, we're making them pay for it because it's a product that we have to pay for. But I think what you'll find is that, more and more of your patients, more and more of your employees, maybe even yourself, this is something that can be incorporated directly into your practice. And like Josey said, if you make this a staff-driven process, your hygienist can talk about this chair side. I mean, my hygienists know how to talk about it. My assistants know how to talk about it. It's a very passive way to offer your patients more value and also, drive a little bit of revenue, behind it. So, that's kind of like my story with it. Here's my setup in my pain and sleep center. It can be as simple as a little corner display. I think that's the biggest hurdle my wife had is like how many displays she had to set up. If she was happy with the first setup, then she went to a second setup, then a third setup. I mean, you can literally do it however you want it. But that's kind of like my experience with it. Josey, do you have anything else to add to that as far as like working with me and a dentist, getting us set up? Pretty streamlined, I would say, right?
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't too complicated. Your wife wanted to make sure that the setup was just perfect and looked really good. But other than that, I mean, it's a pretty straightforward process. One thing that I did forget to mention though is that if anyone wants to be sent the recap of tonight's presentation, is there a way for us to email it to them?
Yeah, for sure. Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
we can, they should either email you or email me and we can send it out. We have a list of patients or providers that were on tonight. So
Okay, good.
that'll be easy to do. Does anybody else have any more questions? Okay, I'm looking. Not seeing anything. Here's one. It says, oh, what's on the display card that yeah, cool. So yeah, I think this is a perfect question answer. So Josey, I mean, you can talk about this too. So the question came in, what's on the display card? So here's what I really love about the product. Here's what I really love about Hugs. The brand is fantastic. Hugs, they play on the whole theme of hug yourself. And what's your guys' tagline? It's like self-care is
Self-care isn't selfish.
Self-care is not selfish. That's right. So it's a really nice brand. It fits really well with like overall comfort level. So as dentists, we always want to make sure that our patients are comfortable when they come into our setting. We want to make sure our patients don't have any anxiety about what we're about to do. Um, so yeah, I think the brand that you've created, Josey, really just puts patients at ease. It gives patients a lot of comfort. And like you said, self-care is not selfish. I mean, is that kind of the inspiration of what you guys were going for?
Yeah, we really just wanted to make CBD feel accessible, because like we learned tonight, there is a decent amount of education involved. And so when we were getting started, we just kind of looked around at the market, and we kind of felt like nothing at that time felt very accessible. It looked very medical, no offense to all of you guys, but for the average person, sometimes that can be a little daunting. So we wanted to create something that was a bit more consumer friendly, so that they weren't scared of it, and then they could take that next step towards like just learning the basics, which is kind of what's outlined on the what is CBD displays you got there.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and I'll say this. There's one more question that came in. I'll say this: the majority of work that goes into this is really with the front desk and with the staff. I mean, my front desk, she is an avid user of CBD. She, swears by it. She thinks she gets a lot of headaches. If she doesn't take it, she has problems sleeping if she doesn't take it. So she's a big kind of user of this and a great advocate. So when you put these signs up in your office, patients will come in, they'll read them, and then they'll start asking your staff questions before they ask you. So they ask Aubrey a lot of questions, and she's there and she's like, "Hey, this is what I do. I put the bath bomb in. I use the relief rub. I take the tincture. It works really well for me." So again, I think the little posters that you can put up in your office, and then having your staff educated on this, I mean, it really just sells itself. So one more question here, Josey. Are there any contraindications to taking CBD? Patients on certain medications, conditions, anything that you would say is a contraindication?
Um, that is a very large word. But yeah, I can answer that question. So
So do you know what I'm saying?
yeah, will it interact with other medications?
Yep.
And that's a very good question. And if you, interestingly enough, it's a very common question. So you'll be able to learn more details just from searching around. But basically, it's sort of like grapefruit. How grapefruit can interact with certain medications, but it seems to be generally safe, and that there's not a lot of them. From all the research that we have at our disposal in this moment, I mean, certainly if it was a widespread fear, a lot of the millions of people that were taking it would be getting sick or having adverse reactions. And like I said, it's not something that we get asked about a lot, and it's not something that we have ever had somebody come up to us and say, oh, this interacted negatively. It's just like grapefruit juice from what the studies show us. So I hope that was a decent enough answer to the question asker.
Yeah, no, I think so. Hold on, let me pull up the rest of her Q&A.
Oh, I
So,
can see it actually. Safe for what ages? I
yeah,
saw that part of the
yep.
question. So there is no guidelines yet. Basically, we will typically say 18 plus, but that's just to keep it on the safe side. There's no federal guidelines that say you have to be this age to take this. But if you go on any CBD product website, it'll say 18 plus, 21 plus, but that's not concrete yet. Like if you go to our website, it asks you that you're 18 plus, but mostly that's just to keep things on the safer side.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Yeah, I think that's great. Any other questions, guys, before we wrap up here? Do you see anything, Josie? I think we're good. And,
Yeah, I don't see any.
and
And if
guess
you do,
what?
what?
9:31.
Oh, wow.
Perfect. We
On the
made it.
dot.
We made it right in under an hour. That's awesome. Uh,
Perfect.
all right, guys. So, I think Josie is more than welcome to continue this conversation. I'm more than willing to continue this conversation. If you guys have any further, questions, comments, concerns, um, please feel free to email both of us. Here's my email again, drrobinson@painandsleepcenter.com. And I believe Josie's is josie@hugscbd.com.
Yep. JOSEY@HUGSCBD.com.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, then I guess we're going to wrap up here. Josie, thank you so much for your time. I learned a lot, and I hope everybody else did. So I think maybe we'll do a part two of this at some point in the near future, but I appreciate your time. And any closing comments or anything?
Just a simple thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. We it was a pleasure, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. See you, Ryan.
All right. See you guys. Have a good one.